All right. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. Ooh, yet another late night upload. I admittedly have got to work on that. But we will. We will. I'll try to upload tomorrow as early as I can. And or at least earlier than this. As I've made it known previously on the channel, I don't like uploading late, but if I want to keep that daily upload promise that I made for the month of December, I gotta make some sacrifices. But I will try to work on that in the for the next few uploads. I'll try to upload earlier. Only thing was I didn't finish the pay per view till kind of late, and B I was cooking dinner. But I'll try to watch the pay per view for tomorrow. Of that being Survivor Series a little bit earlier, and I'll have leftovers when it comes to dinner. But nevertheless, never mind that. We at the WWF is heading back to the UK. Hey, this time firmly within the Alliance storyline. Remember, previously at Insurrection, we were kind of just in the primordial stages, where we weren't full Alliance invasion storyline yet. But this time we are full in. And so, what happens when we see not only WWF and Alliance superstars going head to head, but even a WrestleMania 17 rematch? Let's find out. I'm, of course, talking about Rebellion 2001, which uses and I think it was the same for Insurrection. Uses the base, at least for the Luke Gallows theme that he would have about almost a decade later. Or, but in the meantime, of course, as always, I am not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a pretty alright time with this show. Kind of similar to Insurrection. This is pretty much like a glorified house show. Not a whole lot when it comes to storyline progression. And if you remember, or Insurrection, and not a whole lot in terms of progression happened there. It kind of just felt like it was leading towards the next event and kind of piggybacking off the previous event. But in the case of Rebellion here, there is some stuff that's kind of in the fallout from No Mercy, and they're but also they're very much building towards Survivor Series. They're talking about the winner take all match that's going to happen at Survivor Series, so they're warming up for that. Speaking of which, I did not talk about. There's something I forgot to talk about yesterday in my No Mercy review, so. I'll mention it here. Kind of the reason why I did the whole Diana Ross RVD thumbnail is because as No Mercy really felt like a big coming out in a way for RVD, not in the other way that I'm sure a lot of you are thinking of and might make jokes of, but in a way where RVD got a lot of traction and really had a lot of eyes on him as he was challenging for the WWF Championship. He was already very popular within the Alliance, and even more so carrying over from ECW. But in terms of WWE, it really felt like a big moment for him in that spotlight. This would be really as super close as he would get to the title up until 2006. That being at the previous event, No Mercy. It would be as close as he really got until he actually won the WWE Championship in 2006 at One Night Stand 2006, which I reviewed a little while ago, a couple of years ago. If you haven't already, go check out that review. But yeah, so RVD, yeah, big coming out. That's why I put that particular one, because the Diana Ross song, the I'm coming out, she wanted the world to know, and she had to let it show. I is on that album, at least if I'm not mistaken. At least that's kind of what it falls under on Spotify. Speaking of let me know your guys' Spotify ages. Mine is apparently, I think it was 62, if I'm not mistaken, and which is quite old. I am nowhere near 62, as you can tell, but yeah, uh, uh, but I just wanted to bring that up because I surprisingly forgot to mention it yesterday. But as for this event, let's get right into it. If you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know this works. You have an idea at least of how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about each match. We're going to go match by match. And like I said, and canon wise, the show not really too much. There is some stuff, but definitely more house show vibes, which hey, I guess has put on a show for the UK folk. But first up, I should say, and I guess this is part of that technically storyline. And Edge defends the Intercontinental Championship against his brother Christian, and in a steel cage. Christian beat Edge for the Intercontinental Championship back at Unforgiven. Edge won it back at No Mercy, and now this is essentially the rubber match, I guess. As Technically the rubber match because both men have one win apiece. So who's gonna get the ultimate win in this match? And it turns out to be Edge. Edge actually picks up the win and here and a pretty solid match between the two. Who Christian does get his leg stuck in between the rope and the cage. He's kind of hanging upside down. Meanwhile, Edge just kind of climbs out while Christian's left hanging there. Edge essentially survives. Pretty decent back and forth between the two. They have pretty decent chemistry. And adding the steel cage stipulation and really help freshen things up. Although there's still some argument between JR and Paul Heyman. Yes, Paul Heyman is there in the UK this time. Remember, he wasn't at Insurrection; it was Michael Cole instead. But uh, but it's not as egregious as during the ladder match in No Mercy. But it's still somewhat present. But nevertheless, nevertheless, has Edge definitively, I guess, ends that chapter and picks up the definitive win over his brother Christian and retains the Intercontinental Championship. So congrats to Edge, I suppose. But next up, Scotty Too Hottie. He goes against the Hurricane. And and this match again and pretty all right. Nothing super special, nothing too crazy, but it's still a pretty decent match. Scotty he ends up getting the win with the worm. And sorry, because it's so late, I'm gonna kind of go through these somewhat quickly. With the exception of like the much bigger matches is on the card, but Noah Scotty actually gets the worm on Hurricane and picks up the win. And now maybe it's because I haven't seen too many Scotty Too Hottie matches. I actually haven't reviewed too many on the channel that I remember. But not often that you saw or that I could think of Scotty actually getting the worm and the win. And I felt like he nailed the worm, but then lost afterwards. But this time he nails the worm on the Hurricane and manages to pick up the win. So hey, props to Scotty. But next up, Big Show takes on Diamond Dallas Page. Now, Diamond Dallas Page at this point, he's not doing the whole stalker gimmick anymore against the Undertaker. That gimmick pretty much died at SummerSlam, and instead now he's doing kind of the yoga gimmick, where or kind of the in a way kind of the like self-help guru who in a way a kind of the motivational speaker thing and that he would kind of wind up doing as part of DDP yoga and involved him where he would kind of preach in a way. It's not like brother love type like preaching or anything, but kind of do like the inspirational messages. He would smile like and then like wink at the camera and make very weird facial movements. Apparently, the reason he was doing that is because he thought they would add sound effects and like the sparkle effect, like, when he did the movements, just for them to do none of that. Cool, but you still kept doing it even when they didn't add when they didn't add the effects, yet you still kept doing the smile and everything, and it does look pretty weird. If I remember, I'll put a photo on the screen, what I'm talking about, so I can haunt your guys' nightmares as well. Oh, but DDP, he talks to the UK crowd kind of rags on them, and he also comes up, of course, with the catchphrase. He's talking about how that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, and I forget exactly what he said, but then he battles against the Big Show here. It's essentially a glorified squash. And Big Show takes out DDP and finishes them off relatively quickly. Crazy thing how their match in WCW got more built when DDP took on the Giants. And it's I don't want to butcher the event, so I'm not going to. But afterwards, DDP says, "I'm glad that it's a good thing that I lost, so I can finally get out of this country." he so even in defeat, DDP manages to stay funny in a way. He kind of keep his head up in a way. But it would eventually kind of morph into a face gimmick, but here it's still very much kind of a heel gimmick. Ah, poor DDP. It's crazy to think they passed up on People's Champion versus People's Champion Rock versus DDP for this essentially, but such is life. But next up in triple threat action for the WCW Tag Team Championships, the Dudley Boys defend against both the APA, that being Farouk and Bradshaw, and the Dudley Boys, of course, being Bubba Ray and Devon, and the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff. Lita will also be in action later on tonight. Right, and kind of continuing the battles for the tag team championships that were happening very much throughout the year. His time Hardys and APA challenging against the Dudley Boys, and APA is the first to go. And this match pretty fun. And I think all six guys did really well. And played their roles pretty well. But ultimately, the Dudley Boys getting up to their tactics, eventually getting the win over the Hardy. He's like I said, at APA eliminated first then they get the win after Jeff misses a swanton, and then the Dudley, he's nailed the 3D on Matt, who's the legal man, so they pick up the win. So the Dudley Boys retain the tag team championships, the WCW tag team championships, that is. But next up in singles action, William Regal battles Tajiri. Now, Tajiri, he was William Regal's kind of friend slash protege, even though apparently they hated each other in real life. But since Regal has joined the alliance, he and Tajiri are now at odds and are now going against each other. And William Regal's got new theme music. Now this particular her theme music, First of all, I didn't hear. I had never heard this version of his theme song until doing these reviews for the invasion storyline. But the other thing is that this theme, something about like the music and everything, it kind of sounds like, well, it sounds like the theme he'd have later in his career, the theme we probably know and that we're probably a lot more familiar with later in his career. But it also kind of sounds like the Undertaker's theme, and more specifically the one Undertaker would have when he went back to the Dead Man gimmick, aka the one he's had ever since that we all know him for now. So it kind of sounds it kind of sounds like those two themes kind of did like a fusion dance and kind of combined. I don't hate it though; it's pretty cool. But yeah, as for this match, pretty decent action between the two, who a bit on the short side, but ultimately Regal does make Tajiri submits in the Regal stretch. So Regal picks up the win, and then of course attacks Tajiri afterwards because heel's got to heal. But next up for the WCW Championship, Chris Jericho defends against Kurt Angle. Now, at this point in time, Kurt Angle has joined the alliance, and Shane McMahon, kind of playing his own mind games after Vince played some mind games with RVD and everything. Shane saying that a member of Team WWF will join the alliance, and that turned out to be Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle is now a part of the alliance. Earlier in the show, they're doing like a segment. It's Angle, Austin, Deborah, Shane, and I believe Stephanie's there. But I could be wrong. And Kurt Angle's talking about the Knights of the Round Table, and Austin pretty much rips into him for that. But because they're in England, of course. But so yeah, Kurt Angle is now a part of the alliance. If the Austin turn to the Alliance didn't make any sense, Kurt Angle somehow made even less sense, considering one of the sides of the Alliance, that being ECW, who was the very company that almost caused Kurt Angle to not join the pro wrestling industry. He Yeah, I kind of mentioned it beforehand, but pretty much to kind of summarize, Kurt Angle was at ECW High Incident, I believe, in 1996, and Raven was battling the Sandman, and Raven beat Sandman, then strung Sandman up in a position in like the crucifix position and with his arms out, and then put a barbed wire crown on his head. Sound familiar? So Kurt was very offended and said he didn't want to join the pro wrestling business. But thankfully, eventually he changed his mind, and the rest is history. Maybe that's why Raven got buried in WWE, because he almost cost us Kurt Angle. Maybe it was justified. As for this match, really, really solid action between the two. These two are able to put on a great match. Able to put on a great match as well against each other, or just some pretty fun back and forth action. Ultimately, Jericho oh, uh, does get the win after he rolls up Kurt Angle, which is pretty interesting. And so I guess even back then the roll up was a very devastating move, but Angle does get the last laugh as he nails Jericho with two Angle slams. But yeah, a really really fun match between the two. But next up in, I guess technically the semi-main event, and Lita and Tori Wilson and go against Mighty Molly and Stacy Keibler are in tag team action. Of course, Lita and Tori Wilson being from the WWF, have Mighty Molly and Stacy Keibler being a part of the alliance, and there is a running thread throughout the show. Excuse me, of Chavo Guerrero and Hugh Morris. At first they fight over who's going to interview the women, and then Chavo's like, "Screw it, let's just both interview them." Surprisingly, no mention of their time together in Misfits in Action and in WCW, but I highly doubt Vince cared. But nevertheless, so there's a funny thread of them just kind of barging into the ladies' locker room, walking in on, first it was Trish changing, then it was Lita changing, then it was Mighty Molly without her cape, but she makes it seem like she was changing, because that was part of the gag. Admittedly, that was kind of dumb, but also kind of funny. I guess it kind of leads to this match. Not a whole lot going on, but Lita and Tori do who pick up the win, and it's also worth mentioning Trish Stratus is a special guest referee. And they do kind of gawk over her in the referee uniform. But afterward, Stacy Keibler does attack Trish, and so Trish slaps her and then nails the bulldog. And it's funny that Paul like rips into her afterwards, because that was pretty funny. But next up in the main event, rematch from WrestleMania 17, as Stone Cold Steve Austin defends the WWF Championship against The Rock. Now, you knew it was probably going to happen, especially now that The Rock was back. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier. I'm also surprised that they saved it for Rebellion, and you would think it would happen at a main, I guess, major pay per view. But hey, gotta give the people, oh, excuse me, gotta give the people their money's worth. So they're battling for the championship here. It's also worth mentioning Rock and Jericho have still been having their issues. Who's there was a segment earlier in the night where Vince told them to squash it and shake hands. They do just for Jericho to immediately taunt Rock, saying, "Don't lose this, don't lose the big one this time." And then Rock and Jericho get to scrapping afterwards because naturally. But nevertheless, as for this match pretty all right, pretty fun for the most part. And nowhere near their match at WrestleMania 17, but didn't expect it to be. Of course, there is a sharpshooter from the Raw during the match, which Austin does tap out. This is after the referee's down. There is a ref bump. Then Austin locks in a sharpshooter of his own, on a slightly better, I guess, sharpshooter, but that's really not saying much, especially because Austin almost immediately gives up and kind of just stands up in it to where it's, I guess, leave the sharpshooting to the professionals. But as the referee is down, Angle shows up to help out Austin. Then Jericho shows up to help out The Rock. Kurt does hit Rock with a chair, and Jericho wrestles the chair away. But Rock sees he's Jericho with the chair and thinks, "Oh, he hit me with the chair again." And kind of similar to what happened at No Mercy. He womp womp. So well, they come to blows. Eventually, Kurt does nail The Rock with the title belt. After Rock was going for People's Elbow, Angle trips him up, hits the title belt. Austin gets the stunner, picks up the win, and retains. So Austin essentially escapes with the championship yet again, and to end off the show. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this review. Like I said, I know I kind of breezed through these, but A, like I said, very much house show, and B, it's already pretty late. Hey, so if I had to pick the strongest and weakest matches of the show for this card, the strongest is the two. I think definitely the two World Championship matches. Jericho and Angle for their in ring work, and then Stone Cold and The Rock for kind of the spectacle of it all and like the very much the story told throughout and all the moving parts. As for the weakest, probably Big Show versus DDP. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on those post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you never miss an upload. And let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on Rebellion and your thoughts on my review of Rebellion. Do you like the show? Do you like my review of the show? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace. And hopefully I didn't forget anything this time.